Imagine the exact moment the illusion of absolute control shatters in a room filled with global power brokers. Queen Camilla walked into the grand white drawing room at Buckingham Palace for a highly anticipated diplomatic reception, fully expecting her newly installed inner circle to be managing the floor. Instead, she stopped dead in her tracks, her carefully curated royal smile freezing in place. Standing prominently in the official receiving line, wearing the Royal Family Order of Queen Elizabeth II, and greeting foreign ambassadors with untouchable aristocratic grace, was Lady Susan Hussey. She was the very woman Camilla had secretly banished from the palace just days prior. The administrative keycards had been revoked, the retirement paperwork had been filed, and the eviction from the inner circle was supposed to be final. Yet there she stood, completely unbothered, placed there personally by the Prince of Wales. This is the story of a ruthless personnel purge that backfired catastrophically. A secret institutional coup intercepted by the ultimate enforcer of crown discipline, and a visual humiliation that left the Queen Consort completely isolated in her own court. In this video, we will unpack the staggering secret power grab Camilla attempted under the guise of royal modernization. We will reveal how Prince William uncovered the covert effort to erase the late Queen's most loyal veterans, the silent bloodless retaliation that immediately followed, and the devastating realization that firing the loyalists of a dead monarch means absolutely nothing when the future king quietly decides to hire them back. To fully grasp the magnitude of this sudden collapse, we must first look at the towering illusion of absolute power Camilla had constructed around her own private court. For 3 decades, her journey was defined by a patient, deeply calculated movement from the shadows of a historic public scandal to the absolute center of the British establishment. She survived the vicious public backlash following Princess Diana's death with lethal patience, slowly embedding herself into the daily rhythm of King Charles's life. By the time the coronation arrived, she felt entirely untouchable. We all watched as she quietly dropped the word consort from her official title, signaling to the world that she had successfully conquered the monarchy. She immediately abolished the centuries-old tradition of ladies-in-waiting, replacing them with her own hand-picked queen's companions, an inner circle of loyalists and wealthy aristocrats who owed their elevated social status entirely to her. She operated under the absolute belief that Charles's elevation to the throne provided her with unchecked executive authority over the sovereign household. Camilla wanted the physical space of the monarchy to reflect her absolute victory. But beneath the surface of the royal smiles and the carefully curated photo opportunities lay a deep, unspoken psychological paranoia. The royal household was still heavily populated by the old guard, the fiercely loyal veterans who had served Queen Elizabeth II for decades. These individuals, particularly Lady Susan Hussey, represented a profound threat to Camilla's narrative. Lady Hussey had been at Elizabeth's side for over 60 years. She knew where the bodies were buried. She remembered the Diana years perfectly, and she represented an unyielding standard of royal duty that Camilla's billionaire public relations machine could never quite replicate. To Camilla, the old guard were walking, breathing ghosts of a reign that never truly accepted her. Driven by this existential insecurity and a growing commercial desperation to permanently embed her own allies onto the sovereign payroll, Camilla initiated a highly secretive, deeply fatal power grab. What appeared to look like a routine administrative update regarding palace staffing and budget modernization was actually a total, unauthorized dismantling of the existing royal hierarchy. Camilla quietly instructed her private office to draft immediate termination notices and forced retirement packages for the remaining senior members of Queen Elizabeth's former household. The plan was brutally efficient. Under the guise of streamlining the monarchy for the modern era, Lady Susan Hussey and several other historic loyalists were to be stripped of their security clearances, quietly evicted from their grace and favor palace apartments, and permanently erased from the official court circular. Camilla sought to fill these suddenly vacant, highly coveted institutional roles with her own commercial allies and extended network, attempting to create a permanent shadow court of loyalists who would protect her interests long after Charles was gone. It was a breathtaking act of institutional overreach, a calculated gamble to convert borrowed royal prestige into hard, unassailable administrative permanence. She believed she could slip these personnel alterations through the complex bureaucratic machinery of the palace, while the king was distracted by his demanding schedule, and the broader family was focused on Princess Catherine's recovery. She assumed her movements were entirely hidden in the shadows of palace human resources, completely confident that no one would dare challenge a directive coming directly from the Queen. However, she fundamentally underestimated the silent forensic watchfulness of Prince William, a man who views himself as the permanent, unyielding guardian of the Crown's integrity. The Prince of Wales does not view the royal payroll as mere paperwork. He reads the ledgers, examines the security manifests, and controls the vast financial arteries of the working monarchy as the true executive force behind the scenes. When the updated staffing documents and the revoked security clearances for the old guard crossed the desks of senior estate controllers, the sudden and unexplained purge of his grandmother's most devoted servants immediately triggered a deeper internal review. When William traced the paper trail back to Camilla's private office, the discovery was not merely an administrative annoyance. It was a profound moral outrage. Lady Susan Hussey is not just a palace employee. She is Prince William's godmother. She is a woman who dedicated her entire adult life to the uncomplaining service of the Crown, standing by Queen Elizabeth through her darkest hours and maintaining absolute dignified silence. Furthermore, William has spent his entire life watching his wife Catherine endure the relentless pressures of royal duty and severe health crises with untouchable grace, bleeding for the institution to secure its future. To watch Camilla, a woman driven by aggressive commercial ambition, attempt to discard the true veterans of the Crown in order to hijack the royal payroll for her own friends, crossed the absolute final line of institutional respect. The retaliation that followed was not carried out with a loud public confrontation or an emotional shouting match in a drawing room. There were no dramatic leaks to the tabloids or open family feuds. Instead, Prince William executed a cold, bloodless masterclass in weaponized restraint. Using the very administrative system Camilla tried to manipulate to completely destroy her plan. William did not ask his father for permission, nor did he attempt to negotiate with Camilla's office. Exercising his unquestionable authority as the Prince of Wales, he quietly issued a sweeping executive counter-directive directly from Kensington Palace. William formally absorbed Lady Susan Hussey and the targeted members of the Old Guard into his own official household structure. He utilized his independent Duchy of Cornwall funding to seamlessly place them on his own permanent payroll, granting them the title of special equerries to the Prince and Princess of Wales. With a single stroke of a pen, he restored their top-tier sovereign security clearances and legally protected their grace and favor residences. He effectively built an administrative fortress around Queen Elizabeth's legacy, completely overriding Camilla's authority and rendering her termination notices entirely legally void. The trap snapped shut with perfect, terrifying forensic discipline executed without a single raised voice. The true magnitude of this institutional reckoning became undeniable on the evening of the diplomatic reception. As Camilla stepped into the white drawing room, expecting to survey a court completely remade in her own image, she was met with the devastating visual reality of her own powerlessness. Lady Hussey was not packing her bags in disgrace. She was standing at the absolute center of the monarchy, officially representing the future king and wearing the glittering diamonds of the late queen. In that exact moment, the carefully constructed illusion of Camilla's supremacy collapsed in real time. She suddenly realized that the administrative protocol she thought she controlled had been meticulously weaponized against her. She was trapped in a room filled with global leaders, stripped of her secret administrative levers, and forced to endure the ultimate humiliation of watching the ghosts of the past permanently reclaim the castle. The moment the heavy gilded doors of the white drawing room finally closed at the end of the evening, the temperature inside the palace fundamentally shifted. Queen Camilla had just survived 2 hours of excruciating visual humiliation, forced to smile graciously at international dignitaries, while Lady Susan Hussey operated with the absolute unassailable authority of the Prince of Wales. Retreating immediately to the private sovereign apartments, Camilla sought the one man she believed could correct this staggering insubordination. She went directly to King Charles, fully expecting him to summon his heir and demand that William's executive counter-directive be struck down immediately. And that is where the story changes forever. When Camilla frantically detailed the insubordination, the hijacked payroll, and the undeniable humiliation of having her termination notices legally overridden, she expected the sovereign to rage. She expected the man who had waged a relentless 30-year war against the British, press, and his own family to protect her to immediately crush this rebellion. Instead, what she received was a hollow, devastating silence. Charles did not yell. He did not promise retribution against the Prince of Wales. He simply offered a quiet, defeated sigh, acknowledging that William's use of independent Kensington Palace authority and private funding was entirely legal and completely out of his control. He told her there was absolutely nothing he could do. That silence was not just a lack of action. It was the ultimate emotional betrayal. For decades, Camilla's entire strategy relied on the absolute certainty that Charles would burn the world down to shield her from consequence. But in that crushing moment, the illusion of her absolute power completely evaporated. She realized that Charles is a king entirely constrained by the reality of his own mortality and the surging institutional authority of his successor. Confronted with the forensic reality that William was quietly absorbing the old guard into his own empire, Charles recognized that defending Camilla's bruised ego would mean declaring a catastrophic public war on the future of the crown. He looked at the chessboard and chose the survival of the institution over the corporate ambitions of his wife. This devastating refusal to intervene brings us directly to the staggering reality of Camilla's commercial desperation. To the outside world, she is the queen, surrounded by priceless art-historic real estate and global deference. But the brutal underlying financial architecture of the Windsor family tells a strictly corporate story. The reason Prince William could execute this personnel rescue flawlessly is because he controls the Duchy of Cornwall. He commands a billion-dollar financial portfolio, vast agricultural estates, and private funding streams that operate entirely independent of the king. He holds the absolute purse strings of the working monarchy. Camilla owns virtually nothing of the sovereign estate. Her lavish lifestyle, her ability to hire staff, and her structural influence are all entirely dependent on what Charles can legally gift her from highly restricted funds. Without his active intervention, she possesses no constitutional power to command the permanent palace machinery. William's ruthless defense of the old guard was a public demonstration of this financial reality. He used his immense, independent wealth to remind Camilla that she is merely a temporary tenant within the royal apparatus. By placing Lady Hussey on his own payroll, he proved that the true power of the monarchy does not lie in the title of consort, but in the permanent financial and structural architecture of the heir. As Camilla's covert personnel strategy completely collapsed, a quiet but profound restoration began taking place inside the palace walls, pointing directly toward Catherine, Princess of Wales. Catherine did not need to launch an aggressive public relations campaign or orchestrate backroom firings to secure her future. She had already earned her absolute centrality through the kind of quiet, uncomplaining sacrifice that defines true royal majesty. While Camilla was desperately reaching for permanent relevance by attempting to erase the veterans of the late queen, Catherine was securing the future of the monarchy with untouchable grace and agonizing personal endurance. The institution recognized the staggering difference between a corporate takeover and genuine dignified service. This new order is now reflected in subtle, devastating protocol shifts that are entirely rewriting the narrative. With the old guard firmly restored, the institutional memory of the palace has been locked safely in place. Meticulous observers have noted that highly significant portraits of Princess Diana, once relegated to dark storage during the sensitive early days of Camilla's marriage, have been returned to highly prominent corridors where foreign heads of state are officially received. Catherine herself has been seen wearing highly significant pieces from Diana's personal jewelry collection with a renewed, undeniable frequency. She wears them not as borrowed ceremonial accessories, but as her rightful permanent inheritance. Every time Lady Hussey walks through the grand corridors of Buckingham Palace, every time a newly restored portrait of Diana catches the light, and every time Catherine steps out wearing that sapphire ring, it serves as a silent, lethal reminder to Camilla. She may wear the crown for now, but she will never own the history. The profound tragedy of Camilla's blind ambition is that she spent her entire life trying to conquer an ancient institution by rewriting its payroll and firing its veterans. She completely failed to understand that absolute power cannot be borrowed from a transitional king. It must be earned through the kind of silent, unwavering endurance that William Catherine and the old guard have spent decades perfecting. The administrative trap has finally snapped shut, and as the British monarchy prepares to cross the threshold into its next era, Camilla is finally being forced to watch from the outside looking in, entirely stripped of her illusion of power. Thank you for watching. If you found this deep, forensic analysis into the hidden power dynamics and silent retaliation of the royal family insightful, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. Let me know in the comments below how you think the institution will function when Prince William officially takes full control, and I will see you in the next breakdown.